Hi, this is Zeke, and so we are continuing to learn about Git, and now let's take a look at some of the tools that we would want to download after we've gone ahead and maybe picked a service like GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab. Again, just for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to go with GitHub. And so one of the features that we need to become familiar with is the idea that we need to learn another product, something that helps us code and then execute the Git commands we need to become familiar with. So yes, SaaS products give us that chance to interact with Git and manage our changes and continue to work with what we're going to do with the code that we're updating and the changes that we're making, interact with our repository. And so it's really nice that the SaaS products have that. However, I'm going to focus for this presentation on GitHub Desktop, but then there's also other ones. There's some software called Sourcetree that's really useful. So I encourage you to try any number of those. And so one plug that I want to give a colleague of mine, Joe Matisse, he has a really great presentation as part of SaaS Global Forum 2021 on Git with SaaS Studio. And so I encourage you to take a look at his presentation because it is a really well-rounded and robust introduction on how to start to use Git with SaaS and SaaS Studio. And again, this presentation is really focused around the entire Git and the methodology for it and how to get you started with the code in general. So let's take a look real quick at, for example, Sas Enterprise Guide. So within Enterprise Guide, we can already see where the right connections are there in order for us to manage and work through our repository. And again, I'm just giving a quick introduction here where I want to show that the product is enabled with Git so we can actually see that. But let's look at a different one. Okay, I want to show Sourcetree. So here in Sourcetree, I think I've got some sample project workspace or project repository. And so Sourcetree basically allows us to connect to the repository we're working on and manage the changes as well as the documentation about those changes. So you will need to download this, install it on your machine, and configure it with your credentials that sync up to your GitHub account or your Bitbucket account or your GitLab account. Now, let's take a look at GitHub Desktop. So this is GitHub Desktop. And again, I think this is probably a repository where I'm doing some work related to the VRDC by CMS. But what we need to do with our repository, I'm sorry, our GitHub Desktop is actually enable our credentials that sync up to our GitHub remote repository or our Bitbucket remote repository. Now, one thing I want to stress at this point is if you're working as part of a team that has an IT department which has already configured GitHub for you, you should reach out to them and find out what the proper team settings and configurations are for you to follow. The reason why I say that is that they may use your work email as part of the credentialing to get into the correct repository that you're going to have. So for personal reasons, you could have your own GitHub ID be for your Gmail account or some other third-party email, but your work or your team credentials may be tied to a preferred GitHub account or a preferred Bitbucket account. Your IT department may also have a preference as to which tool set they'd like you to use to manage your Git commands and your Git navigation. So you may, if you're part of a team working in an environment where Git is being adopted, you may want to search on your intranet portal, what preferences they have, what tools they've selected for your team to work with, and make sure that you follow that methodology as opposed to something that I'm recommending here just for you to try on a personal basis, right? So that's important for you to understand. In a second, if you've done the right or necessary steps, then you've gone ahead and created your GitHub account. You've gone ahead and downloaded, let's say, GitHub Desktop, and you're now able to continue on forward because what I'm going to show next are things that matter on where to start with some existing code. So at this point, I encourage everybody to go ahead and get all those necessary steps done. And if you'd like to continue to watch, you don't necessarily need to do all those things. You can still continue to watch the next set of media that's going to come up, because I'm really going to talk about what we're going to do with some existing folders and how we're going to mesh them into this. And so I preface that it's good for you to go ahead and set those things up with your GitHub account or download a GitHub Desktop, but it's not necessarily important for you to continue to watch the media and have those things done. You can if you wish. Thanks.